Hello and welcome to Amanda Lovett with I'mBlessed.net. Today I want to share with you how I made my gingerbread house. This gingerbread house is a gluten-free gingerbread house, and I'm very excited to share this recipe with you. I will do that in the comments below. Okay, let's get started. I selected my favorite gluten-free flour and molasses. You can use any of the gluten-free flours that you prefer. We'll start by adding the ingredients together, keeping the dry ingredients and the wet ingredients separate. Although you will put your sugar in with your wet ingredients. You will want to mix the ingredients together with a spoon. That way the air bubbles will not get into your gingerbread. Once the ingredients are mixed well, combine the two together. Knead the mixture until it is not sticky. If you need to add a little more flour, please do so. Once the dough is ready, roll it into a ball and then lay it out onto the table. Roll it until it is a 1/4 inch in thickness. You will not want it to be any more thin or it will break easily when you are putting together your house. For your walls, you can choose any container in your kitchen that you might have as rectangular. I used a pizza cutter to cut the dough away from the sides of the container. I used a circle cookie cutter to make the arches at the tops of the windows. Using the cake carving tools that I have, I made the sides of the window and then cut them out. You can soften the edges around the window by using your finger or the back of a knife. To make the dormer for the house, you're going to want to make the walls half the size of your regular walls. That will keep it in proportion for the rest of the house. You can also leave the excess that you cut off for stairs or anything that you might use later. I also kept enough gingerbread aside to make a bridge to go over the creek. Okay, that was the end of day one. Wow, that was a lot of gingerbread. And as you can see, I also used some of my excess gingerbread that I had to make Christmas trees to help decorate the landscape around the house. As you are making your gingerbread, make sure you are baking enough gingerbread pieces so that your family can enjoy putting their gingerbread houses together as well. For day two, I started melting candy down in the microwave. I set the power level at 7 and melted the candy for 1:30 seconds. I put 3 minutes on there just because I wanted to put the candy back in and leave the power level the same. Remember to be very careful when melting your candy down and to start out with a dry glass container. You will want to put your gingerbread pieces onto a wax paper and a pan underneath. Carefully pour the hot candy into the windows. Make sure you have a spoon because the candy will be stringy when it starts to cool. Remember not to pick these pieces up until the candy has fully hardened and cooled. And also, from experience, do not put cold water into your candy dish until it is fully cooled as well. It will shatter. I used 4 styrofoam blocks for the base of the gingerbread house. I put them together using skewers and tape on the back. In preparation for adding the house to the styrofoam, I measured the pieces of gingerbread and drew the outline of the layout of the house. I then added where I wanted to place the pond and traced over it with wax paper. Using the wax paper, I made a mold for the pond and creek with aluminum foil. I stacked cutting boards so that the top of the creek would slope down to the pond. I used sugar, water, light Karo syrup, and blue food coloring for the water. Bringing the ingredients to a boil until you reach 150 degrees Celsius. Carefully pour the sugar mixture starting at the pond base. When the pond is full, you will want to then work your way to the top of the creek and pour down to the bottom. Let it cool completely before you move it or you will have cracks, just like I did. If that does happen, you can easily cover over them with icing to make it look like snow. While you're letting your sugar cool, you can carve out the pond and the creek. It's going to be a frozen creek, and it will start coming down from this angle into the pond. So then I'll have an icy pond here. So I'm going to carve all of this area out and down. I prefer to use a regular kitchen knife to carve the styrofoam. You also could use a hot knife, but make sure that you do that outdoors. Once the sugar has cooled and your styrofoam is ready, place the sugar pond and creek into the styrofoam. You might have to make adjustments in the styrofoam, as I did, to make it fit into the correct place. Start filling the gaps with royal icing. Use a piping bag. This will help to hold it in place. If you get too much excess on the blue sugar, it will wipe off easily. The royal icing recipe is also listed below in the comments. I chose to place the front wall first because the other walls needed to be placed behind them. Since this was my first gingerbread house, I was really concerned if the walls would stand. I quickly added the royal icing to the bottom and placed the side pieces on to support it. To be sure that the walls stood up straight as they dried, I put a drinking glass behind them. I also added plastic cake supports for extra strengthening. As you are placing your walls, make sure that you are taking your time so that the icing has a chance to dry and your walls will stand firm. I chose to ice the bottom and the sides before I placed the walls onto the foam. I added extra icing to the base once the walls was in place. If you choose to do so, you can add a few extra cake supports behind them. I chose to leave the back of the house open so that I could add Christmas lights later. Be sure to keep the area clean because the icing will not stick if there are too many gingerbread crumbs. Now it's time to add the dormer. I started by first placing a few skewers into the foam to support the piece of gingerbread that the dormer walls will sit on. Once I measured the gingerbread piece that sits underneath the dormer walls, I used scissors to cut the excess gingerbread off. You can use anything from a knife to scissors to cut gingerbread. You must be careful because the piece could break easily. If you do choose to use a knife, I suggest scoring the piece before you cut the full way through. I wanted to make sure that the roof was well supported, so I added a layer of cardboard to create a ceiling on the first level. Next, I added the surrounding roof pieces. I cut triangular gingerbread pieces for the extra support. For the dormer roof, I cut 45-degree angles with a utility knife because I needed a smooth blade. At the end of day 3, I was so excited that it was a huge success and the walls were standing firm in the gingerbread house. Day 4 and day 5 were all about adding the decorations. I used chocolate candies for the Christmas lights around the house and the trees. And I used sugar-coated gumdrops for the tree accents, as well as colored candy canes for the porch post. I found different colored sugar strings for the roof lights and the porch railing, and used red and green nerds for the decorations on the trees. I am very excited that I could share this challenge that I had with you, and hope that you are able to create your own gingerbread house. Please feel free to leave any questions or comments that you might have below. I will gladly get back with you. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to subscribe to my channel and make sure that you click the notification bell. That way you'll get a notification when I upload a new video. Thank you for watching. Amanda Lovett at I'mBlessed.net, and have a blessed day.